My name is Deirdre Connor. As Andre said, I'm with the Nonprofit Center of Northeast Florida. Excited to be with all of you this morning. And I'm not going to probably spend my entire time. I'm really just here to give everyone a little bit of background on what's going on in the various counties around long-term recovery, and then to share a little bit of information that has been shared with us that might help everyone understand sort of what things look like and where we go from here. I also just want to say thank you to FEMA and to SBA for being here. Adrian from SBA reached out to me yesterday evening and was like, I want to come to Clay County, so just want to add, in addition to Christy, Adrian is here to answer any SBA related questions and may have some flyers potentially for us as well. So Adrian, if you want to just pass those around, feel free, or people can come and grab them. And that would apply to you. I mean, whether you're an individual or a nonprofit or a business, they may be able to answer some of those questions about SBA stuff. So I just want to talk to everyone really quickly about the sort of transitioning from relief to long-term recovery and where things stand. To the best of my knowledge, I know that you're going to have a presentation after this on some specific things that are happening here in Clay County around long-term recovery. But I wanted to share with you 2 slides that were shared with me and a group in Duval by the Florida VOAD chair. His name is Gabe Tischler. He's with Catholic Charities of Florida. And he shared these 2 slides with us, and I wanted to just show them to you because I think they really help us all understand the timeline of events that happen after a disaster like this, and also the types of entities that are involved. So I don't know if you can see this, so I'm just going to tell you the top thing is emergency services. That's like fire, police, and EMS. The folks to the farthest left are the sooner they respond. So of course it's no surprise to anyone here that fire, police, and EMS are responding in a disaster sort of starting at minute 0. And that not long after that begins to respond other early responders, citizens, churches, FEMA. I don't think we had a ton of National Guard involvement, but that does sometimes come into play during a disaster. Businesses, and then other types of government infrastructure and emergency management. I think probably everyone in this room is aware of those types of entities being involved in a disaster. And as you can see, many of them continue to be involved as time goes on. A couple of other entities that I just want to mention are VOADs and long-term recovery committees or groups, and those are 2 organizations or types of organizations that I find fewer people are familiar with, including myself, as of 6 weeks ago. So one of the things that the Nonprofit Center has been doing is trying to assist collaboratives of organizations and government entities who are working together. Great question. So these 2 entities are entities that are working together in different ways to help with disaster relief. So VOAD stands for Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. Some people call them a COAD, which is Community Organizations Active in Disaster. These are evergreen groups that are always thinking about how they can respond to disasters of any sort, not just hurricanes. And Christy actually has a great presentation on this that might be appropriate for this group at some point, that kind of goes in depth on what all the components of a VOAD or COAD are. And then another term you might be hearing more is long-term recovery group or long-term recovery committee or network. A long-term recovery group or committee or network is a collaborative of folks who are looking to help individuals in a community recover from a specific disaster. And it's primarily folks who cannot recover on their own. Christy, is that a good summary? Okay, so in Duval County, the Nonprofit Center is working with a wide variety of organizations. Some of you are involved in this to put together a long-term recovery group for probably Duval and Nassau County, potentially Clay if that is something you all are interested in, but I think Joelle is going to be presenting on something that's specific to Clay County later in the morning. The important thing to know about all of this is that there are different roles for all of these entities to play, and I believe that the estimates that have been given to us is that in Duval County there have been about 100,000 claims for assistance, validated claims to FEMA for assistance, and that the Long-Term Recovery Committee may be assisting between 2 and 10% of those folks, and those are folks who I think this group concerns themselves with on a monthly basis, or really for most of you every day, and those are folks in our community who are already living on the edge, who do not have a strong safety net, which is the reason for the name of this group, and those are the folks who will primarily need our assistance in the long term after a storm. So I think one of the things that's really powerful about the Safety Net Alliance is that you're already serving many of those functions and have been every single month for years at this point, and have a lot of strong foundations. So I think, you know, what I've heard from Christy is when she comes into a community, a lot of times she has to pull a table like this together. And I think what's incredible about Clay County is that table already exists. And this is also courtesy of the Florida VOAD. This is kind of a sequence of delivery, and probably this is not rocket science to those of you who are in this world every day, but I just want to mention that one interesting feature of the sequence is that it often starts with the voluntary agencies, that's many of you, and it also ends with the voluntary agencies. So many of you have been responding from the earliest days of this hurricane, and will probably continue to do so for potentially years. And the key, I think, from what we've been hearing, and you know, for other communities that have been affected by similar disasters, is both that this will be a marathon, not a sprint, but also that the role of voluntary agencies is essential at every step of the way, whether it be providing the assistance directly yourselves, or whether it be helping the folks that you serve access other resources that are important to helping them recover. So that's part of what you're doing today. And I just want to say thank you, because I know that it's a lot of work, and everybody is really, really tired, and just the act of being here is crucial. So thank you for that. And I can take any questions that are related to helping nonprofits gather together and collaborate around this, and potentially any questions about helping nonprofits specifically recover, although I would probably defer much of that to FEMA and SBA.
Is this flowchart on their website?
On the VOAD website? I'm not sure, but I can send it to Andre. Yeah, I'm sure they'd be fine with that. And yes?
If for a nonprofit, is there a process after I applied for public assistance and now I call the county emergency operations committee, and then what happens?
So are you talking about the public assistance program?
Correct. I'm a nonprofit. I've had damage to 6 of 14 properties which house people. Results in relative penalty.
So I'll let somebody else jump in here if I'm saying something that's incorrect, but I believe that the application for public assistance, and just for everybody else to understand, what Beth is talking about is it's a state-run but federally funded program to provide assistance to government entities, like government buildings, and also buildings that are owned and operated by nonprofits that provide essential services. And I don't know a ton about the definition of essential services, but I know it's not like if you run a theater, you know, building, it would be, you know, for things that are providing essential services to individuals, that there is a program for that, and that the deadline is November 10th to apply. As for what happens when that application goes in, I don't want to speak with authority about it, but I wonder if they wait for everyone to apply and the application deadline to be over before they let folks know what they're going to get. But I do know that if you are a nonprofit that provides essential services, or you at least want to know what essential services are defined as, and you want to know more about applying for that program, I have a PowerPoint that was sent to us by Duval County Emergency Management via FEMA, and I can absolutely send that out. That has some Q&A about it. Yes.
So I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question, but I want to ask it because of your hand also in Duval County in here. There's been a ton of money collected for relief efforts. You know, not just the Red Cross, but you know, individuals have done funding drives and whatnot. There's not been a whole lot of information about how to access those funds. I was wondering if you had anything that you could share with the group that might help us to be able to access some of those other pools of money that we're not hearing much about at this point?
Great question. So I'm aware of two things, I know that there have been a lot of like sort of individual, like church-led efforts, or even I even have had individuals who in Duval County who are like posting on Facebook like, we need diapers and food for like this specific family. So they kind of range from like one-to-one assistance, like you're saying, all the way up to more formalized things. So I know of two more formalized things. One of which you're going to hear about, I believe, in a couple of minutes. The other is the Florida's First Coast Relief Fund. That is organized by the United Way of Northeast Florida, the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida, the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund, and a couple of other funders that are regional. And what the First Coast Relief Fund does is provide funding to nonprofit entities for both immediate relief, but also for long-term recovery. And if you go on the United Way of Northeast Florida's website, it's actually linked. So just like if you just Google United Way of Northeast Florida and go to their website, that should pop up. And I believe that they are actively taking applications, and they have a pretty good summary of the criteria for nonprofit organizations to apply for for those grants.
As an aside, we applied and I said they were doing more dire agencies, so I'm not sure that they're funding long-term.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that the fund is grappling with right now is how much will they be spending on immediate relief and sort of dire, like we have hungry people that need food type of situations, versus how much needs to be held back for that long-term recovery. And I think that's like probably an open question that from what I've heard, they really have not decided yet. So I think they are trying to hold some back for long-term recovery. But I think that's, if I can put myself in their shoes for a minute, it can be really hard to balance that when there are still so many immediate needs. But I do know that they want to be able to have the fund involved in long-term recovery going forward.
I wrap back, because I was told 2 days ago that they're only funding immediate and more dire than our damage.
I would keep on top of that every so often.
From the PA program or First Coast Relief Fund?
The relief fund, yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt to keep in touch with them. Yeah, I know that right now they're only doing immediate relief stuff, but I think they're asking themselves whether and how the fund will be involved in helping fund any long-term recovery.
Just as a follow, is there anybody that is kind of doing that in terms of, researching those types of efforts so that, maybe a resource list could be developed that, might be a good resource, not just for nonprofits, but just individuals that could maybe access.
For long-term recovery?
Well, not just long-term recovery, but also immediate need.
I think what I would suggest is for anybody individually wise, the resource list that you all provide here at the Safety Net is an awesome start. Like we don't even have that in Duval right now. So we're trying to put together something that like what you all have that's like, here is an entity, here's what it does, here's who you can contact to get connected. So I think that's a great resource that we're looking to replicate in Duval. And I would also suggest that any individuals that are kind of meeting some dead ends, if they haven't yet, to call 211, which is the United Way helpline, because they can get referrals potentially to agencies they have not been in touch with yet. And the 211 folks are continuously updating their resource list. It's pretty massive, and it's actually online if you ever want to look at it. Just Google United Way 211, and they put their entire resource list online so you can look up things by types of service. But for individuals who have not yet called 211, definitely encourage them to do that because there are all kinds of assistance programs out there that may not even be hurricane specific, but like say they can't pay their light bill because hurricane relief has taken up funds that they would usually use to pay their light bill. There may be assistance for things like that.
Is that not something you could find on like the greaternonprofit.org that has all the Northeast Florida nonprofits and what they do, like that kind of list?
I'll have to look at that. But I know that 211 is primarily for individuals to call. Yeah, and they're trained in sort of taking intake on what they need and then trying to make referrals.
For the list, I think they may have it.
Oh, for the list, yeah.
Greaternonprofit.org has a pretty good, you could put in there.
Yeah. Yeah, so between 211 and that, I think that those resource lists are pretty extensive. Yeah. I would also encourage anyone to go on our website, which is nonprofitctr.org. We have something called The Link, and it's a listing to literally every 501c3 in the Northeast Florida region. Yeah, it's nonprofitctr.org. And we have a website called The Link. You can get to it from our homepage, but it's a listing of every 501c3 in the Northeast Florida region, and they're organized by program area. So it's a way of understanding what programs may be located in your specific zip code or neighborhood.
Deidre, is 211, are they, because of the disasters, are they helping out in Clay County now, or just still the Duval?
I believe 211 covers Clay County, as well as, I think they cover 15 different counties now. So they've expanded. And I think the last that I heard, they have taken about 16,000 calls that are hurricane related. If anyone is running into Clay County specific issues with 211 though, please let me know so I can connect you with Bob Arnold, because I know that they're trying to make sure that they're as responsive to the other counties as they can be. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for everything you're doing.